let's write the code to handle this union type. Okay, so we previously had a stub function here. Want to handle a union type, so I'm given a lookup result. And again, a lookup result, what is that? It's something or something or something. Well, the first thing I'm going to need to do to be able to return the correct answer is figure out which of those somethings was I given. Okay, and for that, we're going to go ahead and use cond. And there's three different things I want to check. So the way cond looks, and I'll talk about it now if you haven't seen it before. Cond has a bunch of question-answer pairs. And the first question I want to ask is, hey, I know that I was given, let's look up this data definition, either a username or false or private. And I need to tell which one I have. So, gosh, was I given a username? I need to ask a question to say, hey, LR, are you a username or are you the symbol private or are you the Boolean false? Okay, so different things we could do there. Ask her for a username. How can we tell if you're a username? Do we know I have a function that can be given one of these three things and will return true if it's a username and false, and we'll say, no, you're not a username if you give it one of these? Yeah, there's a function in Rack that we talked about when we were talking about signatures. Hey, LR, are you a string? If you are a string, I already know. So remember, look at the signature here. I'm given a lookup result. If you give me a string, you have to be a username. By the way, if I'd written the function username question mark, that would be a really good thing to use here, but I don't need it. If I know I'm given a lookup result and it's a string, well, it has to be a username. So I don't need to check, hey, are you 14 characters at most and all that stuff. I know I have a lookup result. That's what that signature means. That's why we wrote the signature. This function takes in a lookup result. If somebody calls me and passes me something that's not a lookup result, that's on them. That's not me. So, okay. If it's a string, what else might I check? Hey, there's a function, are you a Boolean value? And again, if you pass in either true or false, this function would say yeah, and otherwise it says no. Boolean of 17 says no, and Boolean of true says yes. So yeah, I know that if I am given a Boolean, it has to be the Boolean false. That was the only one that was a lookup result. Okay, and finally, what was my last thing? Hey, am I a symbol? Okay, so those are three questions I can ask, and once I have the answer, once I know which one of these is true, one of them has to be true, and once I know which one is true, then I know which case I am, and I can put my answer over here where the ... is. Okay, so that's how cond works. It's like if, else, if. If this condition is true, here's the answer. If the next condition is true, then that's the answer. Otherwise, check the next condition if that's true. What happens if I fall all the way off the end of the cond? If none of those things are true? Well, I wasn't given a lookup result, is one thing I can infer. If I wasn't given a lookup result, then whoever called me wasn't following the signature. What happens if you call the built-in function square root and you don't follow the signature? You pass it a string instead of a number. It's going to give you an error, right? And that's okay. That's your problem. That's not saying that square root was written incorrectly. No, that's saying that you called square root incorrectly, and so it's going to give an error. If somebody calls, once we write this function, if somebody else calls it and passes something that's not a lookup result, we can give an error. Falling off the end of the cond will give an error. So yeah, great. Again, this is going on the idea that lookup result is a type. It's a type, a union type, one of three different sorts of things. Okay, now lookup result. If you gave me false, I know the answer should always be that. So I'm going to copy. Are there other functions you could use here? Yeah, there are other ways to tell if you were given the Boolean false. In particular, I believe there is a function, a predicate false question mark. There's not a predicate true question mark. And We could use equal question mark, LR false, or different things we could write. I think this one makes sense to me. I'm happy with this. If I was given private, then we want to return this string here. By the way, common small bug when I have other people write this function and then run these check expects. Their answer, I could have written this in the homework exactly what was expected. Sometimes people will give something where they don't include the period that was required as part of the spec. Or they don't start with a capital letter, things like that. If the spec says, hey, this is what should get returned in this case, up here, yeah, you'd better follow that spec. Okay, so. Okay, we're in a string. Oh, I want to take, I was going to say like iBarland. And I want to return iBarland at Radford.edu. Okay, well that's a string append. Now you think about what two strings you want to append, and you'll be shocked to find out. Second one was at Radford.edu, and the first one is, hey, whatever username we were given. Okay. I know that I don't have, of all the different lookup results I might have, I happen to have a particular username if this question returned true. Okay. So now let's go ahead and try running this, see if our test cases pass. And hopefully this time we're doing a little bit better. All 3 tests pass. We go on to step 8 of the design recipe and celebrate. Yay!